Howdy there, YouTube. This is T Walker, aka Tanner. I'm going to do a video today where I talk about the "it's more realistic" argument, um, and kind of the reasons why I don't like it, why I don't think it should ever be used in an argument. But hopefully, I just kind of get you to see as with a lot of my videos, I just want you to understand my point of view. You don't have to agree with it. I just want you to understand it. All right. So the "it's more realistic" argument. Why don't I like it? Alright, because I don't like it for this reason. And I will explain this reason hopefully throughout the course of this video. Because a game should not try to emulate reality, but only appear to emulate it. And you're like, wait, what does that mean? So that's one of the first reasons. And I'll explain it. Another reason is games are set in fantastical settings. These fantastical settings are not our setting, our real world setting, right? So, a game placed in a fantastical setting, its reality has different rules than our reality. And the fact that it is a fantastical setting means you get to change these rules according to what you want. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. So, I'm going to use a really, I'm going to use a really kind of like poor setting, but that's not the point. The point is just to, give you an example, okay? So don't judge the setting, but this is just for an example. So let's say that in this setting, in this reality, that your charisma score also denotes your kind of this aura, this powerful magnetic aura. And what this aura does is attract these spirits of the dead to you. And they, drawn in by your, magnificent aura, want to help you because they're enamored by you. And so they will, when you are fighting, guide your blade into that enemy's vital points because they like you and they want to protect your life. So with this sort of reality effective in the game, it makes sense, realistically, for you to add your charisma score to damage. Now let's make another example from the same setting. Let's say that these spirits also detest strength. They recognize the fact that they do not have bodies and so become very jealous of those that do. And the more powerful your body is, the more that they hate you. So the more that they are going to try to harm you or not help you out. So in this way, it makes sense for strength to actually give a minus to damage, because the more strength you have, exponentially more spirits are going to try to stop you from what you're doing and mess with your day. So the more strength you have, the actual less damage you do. And now, see, my only point is these two things make sense in the reality of this setting because, sorry, all you need to make something realistic is an explanation. This is a fantastical world, so as long as it can be, you explain it, this is for this reason, then, it, then it's viable, then it's real, alright? Now, this is another problem I have with, this one's going to be about weapons for now. If weapons, or if there is a weapon which is realistically better in your setting, let's say it's the longsword, and longsword, is, or statted mechanically better. What this means is in your setting, a longsword has the best chance of protecting your life, right? If it's because mechanics represent the reality of a setting, right? So if this longsword is statted better, right? What it means is that in your setting, a longsword is the most effective tool for protecting your life. Now, my problem with this is that this means if you are not using a longsword, you're being an idiot. Now, in the setting, not as a player in a game, but as a character in a role playing game. Let me explain that. If you know a longsword will protect your life better, will keep you alive longer, right? And you say, no, I don't need it. Well, either you could just be, really pompous, but you're also being stupid. If you do not, use a tool that will help protect your life, I just view that as, idiocy. Why would you ever do that? Well, because I want the different flavor. Well, yes, but the different flavor is going to kill you. I mean, we don't send, in a real life, in reality, we don't send soldiers into combat with muskets, to give them a different flavor. We send them with, whatever we can to help protect their lives. Now, the only reason then that you might not be using a long sword is that you can't afford it. But as soon as you can afford it, you're going to buy it because it's going to protect your life better, right? To not use something that protects your life better is stupid. I mean, it really is. At least that is my personal view. But this being a game, our goal is we don't want people to just use a long sword, right? Um, we don't. I mean, because we want to see all those different weapons. We want to see all those different fighting styles. But when a longsword is the thing, in the setting, in the flavor, in, this reality, when a longsword is the thing that protects your life best, and I'm just giving an arbitrary example, protects your life best, a person who doesn't use it is just being silly. Because a character in a setting is going to do what protects his life best. It just makes sense. Unless he's, as I've said, dumb. If he said, no, I'm going to use an axe, even though it doesn't protect my life as well. In fact, it gives me more chance that I'm going to die. It doesn't make any sense in reality. So that's my point about the sword. But we want people to use different weapons. I think that is part of the goal of D&D, providing these different weapons, is to provide you different styles. So why not do that? Why not, balance out some of the ones that are crap and, just make them a little bit better. Make them a little bit more, even. Not the same, but just, a little bit more even. And there are some that are just significantly better than others. So, oh, and Ander, if you're watching this and you post under there, I've never used this longsword, nor will I ever use a longsword. That's not the point. You missed the point then. I'm watching you. Oh, and you still owe me a heartwarming story about an acid-born shark. Alright, anyway, sorry, tangent. So, that's one of my points. Another point is that a game shouldn't try to emulate reality because it's too complicated. A game should only appear to try to emulate reality. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let's take me, for example, in reality. I fight MMA. Of course, I'm not the greatest, but, I do. I'm decent. I've been in a lot of fights. I've, sparred against people. Now, what kind of, and a lot of people say, oh, strength should add to your damage because it's more realistic. As an MMA fighter, as a person who fights a lot, I can tell you that that is not necessarily true. While strength will add to the power of my punches, a lot of it actually comes from flexibility. Flexibility will add a lot of power to your punches because what it does is able to turn. Flexibility will turn your attacks into more of a whip-like motion. That whip-like motion will add so much more power to your strikes. My kicks hurt. One, because I've got the legs the size of tree trunks, but more importantly, because I use them like a whip. And when, you fling it out and pull it back and it creates that horrible whip-like motion, that's going to leave welts. So flexibility actually makes more sense to, add into damage. But of course, that's not a stat in D&D. Well, that's not realistic. Okay, you get my point there. But my main point is this: I am a decent fighter not because I am strong, not because I am quick, not because I have good endurance. We'll use an example of this right here. A lot of the guys I fight are bigger because those are the only people I can find to spar with. So I remember one fight. The guy weighed 220 pounds back when I weighed 150. It's a 70-pound advantage. For those of you who have wrestled, those of you who have ever fought, you know that's huge. That is not a good thing to be fighting on. But I really wanted to fight, so we did it. And this was full contact, only wearing knuckle gloves and a mouthpiece. So we were hitting each other hard. Now, he was just as quick as me. He was way stronger than me. And our endurances were about equal. However, I did not lose that fight. And the reason is I had a higher pain tolerance than he did. I had welts afterwards on the next day, and it was hard to move, but because I took hits, because he was much better striker than me. But however, I did get the knockout. Where I got him to the ground, kept hitting him until it was pulled off. But the reason was not because of my strength, not because of my dex, not because of my con, but because of my willpower. However, willpower doesn't give you a bonus in D&D. Well, that's not realistic. Alright, so you guys see what I'm saying, is that if a game really tried to emulate reality, the rules would just be way too complex, so it shouldn't try to do that. However, I don't believe a game should hinder my ability to flavor something. If I want my guy to be, if I wanted to be, somewhat a player or a character like myself who gets all this fighting potential from willpower, the fact that D&D already has a willpower, score, and it flavors it for me, I don't like that so much, I don't like that it tells me what my willpower does. No, I should say what my willpower does. I should say, what my strength does. But however, to do that, we have to turn them into flavor. Alright, so let me just check my note cards. So let's just sum up here real quick. A game can't or shouldn't try to emulate reality. It only needs to appear to do so. And you can make a game appear to emulate reality, and just have, all weapons be the same, but just, have them deal a d6, and, that's reality. And people say, oh, that's pretty realistic. All you need to do is justify it in such a way. I'm not advocating that all weapons be the same. However, I do think they should be balanced. However, if one weapon is better than the other, then people who don't use it are just being silly, are just being stupid as characters, not as players. As characters, they are being stupid, not as players. In role-playing world, they are being idiots if they do not use a weapon that better protects their life. Like I said, to justify anything in a reality form, in a reality, in a setting, all you need is a pseudoscientific or fantastical explanation, and boom, the mechanic you just made makes more sense in reality. That is, the reality of your setting. Alright, so then again, a game can't emulate reality. However, a game should not try to control my flavor as a player. If I want, my character to do extra damage because he's flexible, not because he's strong, there shouldn't be a reason why the game should limit me mechanically for that. I mean, that's just flavor. That's really cool. I should be able to do that. I don't like that it flavors my stats for me. I don't like that. I don't think that's cool. It hinders my creativity. Alright, so anyway, this has been T Walker, aka Tanner. I know this has been kind of a rambly video, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of why I think the way I do about the it's more realistic argument. Alright, have a good day, guys.